Our speakers were very much on the same page, with the sharing of data and working closely with customers being the common themes. The rate of change and the deliverables demanded in terms of carbon reduction require all aspects of equipment utilisation to be monitored. This commonality of cause between the three speakers appeared to be a cause for real optimism about the deliverability of outcomes. What other factors affect contractors' ability to deliver a more sustainable on-site performance? And can you suggest any practical early steps that operators can take to lock into some of those benefits? It is about adoption, isn't it?
Yeah, for me, it's definitely about adoption. And what I encourage everyone to do is, because we don't know what all the solutions are. Again, as a business person, economist person. I think that what you want to do is get the data, right? The data are going to help you understand how to make the choice. What's the biggest way you can reduce your emissions? And so first off, it's sort of just a very basic thing. Start accounting for the carbon within what you're doing, whatever it is that you're doing within that system. And there may be choices that you just didn't even think about that might be really important to you. So some of those things could be, the biggest opportunity might be around just changing your cement mix. Cement's one of the biggest emitters overall around the world. And there's new technology innovations that are purely cost effective right now, just by changing from Portland clinker cement to new methods with different mixes that can dramatically reduce your emissions on site, right? So for me, it's really thinking about those kinds of things. And then also working with, that full ecosystem. You want architects, the contractors and the owner operators to be thinking about this stuff together, because the incentives need to be aligned throughout that whole part of that system. Otherwise, if you're thinking about it individually, you may not optimize for that long-term carbon reduction. And so for us, it's really about, thinking about quantifying the information, sharing thought leadership. So that's a big thing that we're looking at too. So we have a part of our website, civilconstruction.trimble.com/sustainability, where we share that information. The goal is get more of that out there, so that we can partner in driving a sustainable future.
There's that word again, sharing. Jeremy, what are your thoughts?
I agree with a lot of the comments that were just made. I think, for a lot of folks, some of the operational stuff, fuel burn, different things, maybe in a lot of cases has been kind of out of sight, out of mind. I do believe the data availability and having that in front of people is probably going to bring a lot of things to light that maybe people weren't thinking about before. Bringing it back to a couple of the things I mentioned earlier, equipment turn, how do you bring older equipment up to newer spec, things like idle management. I think part of the challenge that we've probably had is how do you convince people of the value of that, right? It's just another thing to deal with in a lot of cases. If you look at what we've done over the course of the last 3 or 4 emission changes, you're talking 5 to 8% fuel economy benefits in one, another 5 in the next, another 3 in the one after, more coming down the line. If all of a sudden now I've got a fleet report for all of my equipment and it shows me some kind of a vintage of equipment, how much fuel I burned, it's probably a pretty short trip to be able to think about, okay, I can monetize the value of upgrades. Similarly on things like that idle management, if you take that example where the operator was idling 30% of his time, the fuel burn is the obvious one, right? Maybe his management or operations folks didn't realize that to start. That's one piece. Carry it another step further, most of the maintenance happens on a schedule, right? So if you're not idling 30% of your time, all of a sudden your 500-hour oil drain interval lasts a lot more in calendar time. And then further, looking into that, you're also not racking up hours on the machine, right? It's not going to show up as, all that idle time, and that really affects your kind of end of life or resale value. So I think being able to see a lot of this data and really kind of helping folks think through how you monetize that, and you can make improvements that are going to be really, really good for the environment. And I think they can also be really, really good for the bottom line for a lot of these operations if you start thinking through them a little bit more.
Henrik.
I think also we can do lots of things already now. I mean, a little bit I think what Trimble was into here is how do you optimize the work site, so to say, how do you run all the machines in an optimal way and really utilize them in a really good way. So that's one thing that is we can do already now then. Then, of course, that we have done for a long time is actually driver education. I mean, you can save a lot of fuel just to educate the driver how to drive the machine in a efficient way, so to say. So, I mean, there is different ways that you can do that. Then we have actually also started to build machines with fossil-free steel for selected customers and so on. So it's a completely other way then to protect the environment, to go that route as well then, of course.